Gospel passage, Gospel of John, chapter 18. When he had said this, Jesus went out with his disciples across the Kidron Valley to where there was a garden, into which he and his disciples entered. Judas, his betrayer, also knew the place, because Jesus had often met there with his disciples. So Judas got a band of soldiers and guards from the chief priests and the Pharisees and went there with lanterns, torches, and weapons. Jesus, knowing everything that was going to happen to him, went out and said to them, "Whom are you looking for?" They answered him, "Jesus the Nazarene." He said to them, "I am." Judas, his betrayer, was also with them. When he said to them, "I am," they turned away and fell to the ground. So he again asked them, "Whom are you looking for?" They said, "Jesus the Nazarene." Jesus answered, "I told you that I am. So if you are looking for me, let these men go." This was to fulfill what he had said, "I have not lost any of those you gave me." Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it, struck the high priest's slave, and cut off his right ear. The slave's name was Malchus. Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword into its scabbard. Shall I not drink the cup that the Father gave me?" So the band of soldiers, the tribune, and the Jewish guards seized Jesus, bound him, and brought him to Annas first. Where am I? Where am I? I'm part of a band of brothers. Not any band of brothers, but those chosen by Christ to be together, to be here with him tonight. Brothers, most of whom have spent at least the last 3 years or so together on adventure with Jesus, learning, growing, new experiences. Some of you are newcomers to the garden. Some of us have been here many times before. Brotherhood gives me a confidence, a common mission, a spirit, a challenge, a purpose, and yes, a love. But the brotherhood we share in this garden comes from him. He's the only one who could have brought these men together, all of us, and led us here tonight. So where are we? We're here in a garden, clearly. A beautiful garden here in Cheshire. Familiar to Jesus. He regularly comes here with his closest followers to pray. Strange. It's always beautiful. Every Holy Thursday, there's this beautiful garden here in Cheshire. Beautiful because of those who are here, really. Beautiful because, well, the beauty of a real brother. A brother's love. A brother's surrender. A heroic love. Like no other. Most of us have left everything behind to share his life and his mission. So here we are, camped out with him, waiting. Sure of only one thing. He's got our back. Nobody in front of me is sweating blood right now. We know who we follow. It's a strange kind of beauty that shines through an ugly darkness. A darkness of sin and betrayal. Our brotherhood is full of paradoxes, this legionary brotherhood. We are with Jesus, but we're not really connecting with him. Let's be honest. Ever since leaving the main chapel, celebrating the Last Supper, well, he hasn't said much. There was a lot in the liturgy, but he's been real quiet since. And we've been just sitting here trying to connect with him. He's at a distance. The apostles can't figure him out. This night is different. Jesus is troubled. We've never seen him this way before. You and I, of course, know what's coming. We've seen the movie, right? The apostles can only sense it. And of course, sleep is an easy escape from a situation you don't know how to handle. Something the seminary never prepared you for. Or did it? Did it prepare us for the coming storm? What does our Lord ask of us tonight? Well, he's asked very little in the past. Let's face it. Spend time with him. Travel. Some of us do a lot more of that than we'd like to. Sing. Again, some are good at that. Study, work. I know, prepare gardens like this. Doesn't ask much of us. But he just asked one thing tonight. To stand in vigil with him. To watch and pray. To watch like a soldier who stands guard on the front lines for the safety and survival of his brothers. Kind of like my dad in the Second World War. Caught in the midst of some pretty heavy battle. Hedge warfare from hedge to hedge. One night, it was his turn to stand guard. And his partner was in the foxhole. My dad always dug deep foxholes. That's just the way he did things. And normally they would take a shift of an hour or two at a time. His shift was towards the morning hours. And just as the dawn was beginning to show, the mortar started to blow off. And there was a series of explosions that came in his direction in a line right toward him. I could have gotten up and run, taken the chance of being mortally wounded or being shot. Instead, he just clung to the ground. And the mortar hit and blew his knee to pieces. But a few moments later, his buddy was in the foxhole, crawled out and threw himself over my dad and said to him, "Don't worry, this is your salvation. This is your ticket home." Because that battle was so fierce that during those weeks, you either left on a stretcher or in a box. Isn't it funny? We stand guard for Jesus, and he's the one who guards and saves us. Watch and pray. Pray, that's easy. Tonight, prayer is easy. You can do it a lot of different ways. I suggest real simple. Just focus on his words. Be present to him. Be present to the Lord. Just be there for him. Concentrate on his thoughts, on his words, and repeat with him. Father, Abba, let this chalice pass, but not my will, but thine be done. Just repeat that. If you can't gather any other thoughts, if standing guard seems too simple, then at least pray. So in this garden of trial, just like that first garden of Eden, what else do we notice? I don't know about you, but one of the first things I notice during a Eucharistic hour like this are my weaknesses. Where do you see those? Well, I don't know. You have to look pretty carefully, but I sure feel them. My weaknesses. I carry them wherever I go. I'm tired. I'm a bit anxious. Confused. I'm weary. They weigh upon me. This weakness that's the source of sin and failure. Like weeds in a garden. They're there, I don't want them, but they keep sprouting up. There's all the brothers out in the courtyard this afternoon. They were raking the grass. It doesn't work, brothers. Who never get rid of all those weeds. They're there. And they weigh on me. In the hands of darkness, they threaten to depress and discourage and crush my heart. But I don't carry them alone. My brother silently asks me to let him take them. The Good Shepherd becoming the suffering servant before our eyes. He stoops down, pressed under so much weight, all my baggage of sin and weakness, the frustration, the guilt, the shame, the sorrow, not just mine, yours too. And then he straightens up and raises it like a barbells above his head. And he turns around. And he could cast them back upon me in one move. Or he could fight to bear that burden the rest of the night. And you know, I think it's in this moment, one of those few moments of prayer, where our eyes meet. And Jesus looks at me, and he just nods. And he looks back and focuses again on the Father. I've got your back, is what that nod said. But I need not focus on myself. That's not why I'm here. Won't be too consumed by those weaknesses. I'm here to support Jesus, to stand guard and pray, to be with him. And you know, we've always relied a lot on Jesus to do it all. He needed so little from us. But somehow he needs more from me tonight. It's funny. When you grow up and your parents do everything for you, you really get used to it. In fact, even when you get older, and you're older than your parents were when you were little, you still look at your parents as the people who always did everything for you. So it was a very strange experience when I was with my dad when he passed away last summer. And all of us were blessed to be with him. And we prayed. We must have prayed every prayer in the book. We gave him absolution, all three of us. We celebrated Mass. We did Divine Mercy Chaplet. We did the Rosary. And one of those few moments when you realize that this man who did everything, I counted on him for everything for so many years, suddenly he was weak and unable to do almost anything for himself. And he looked to me and to the other children to do what he most needed done. Tonight is different. His face, his whole demeanor, troubled and distressed, cry out, "My soul is sorrowful even to death." I can't fathom what sorrow and weight he carries. We know he's entering his passion, foreseeing the tidal wave of horror, not just today, but of all of history, the history of sin. He takes on the demons and powers of evil that have held us bound, that threaten to destroy and extinguish the little love that we carry in our fragile hearts. But Jesus, and Jesus alone, will confront and overpower the enemy. That's our faith. He'll do it with the power of divine and human love together. In a certain sense, he does it alone, but he doesn't do it alone. He does it with the Father. It's that union of his human will with the divine will of the Father. And he doesn't just do it alone in that sense, he also shares that with us now. He includes us in this heroic act of surrender, of obedience. That's what obedience is. Where my will unites with the divine will. When I do something that's not human, when I do something that's superhuman, because it's anchored in the will of God. The will of God that I so often bucked and dodged and rejected, and I'm now vowed to live it. My task is to remain with him, to watch and pray, to stand guard for his kingdom. His kingdom. It's a garden too. Look at it. Surrounded by a wall. We've only just begun to build the kingdom here in this country. But look at all those flowers. Beautiful flowers. They're the souls entrusted to us in this kingdom. The souls he fights to save. Your family and friends. Those who face the most loneliness tonight. The loneliness produced by sin or by a sinful world. The couples who struggle to fight the demons of divorce and stay as one. The aged who wonder if anyone still loves them. Your peers who tonight have plunged themselves into drink, into drugs, into sex, so to escape a world where they have yet to really find love. The old monk who wonders if his sacrifices are making a difference. The child who mourns the loss of a family member, or maybe mourns the loss of his or her innocence. They all have need of him. And you and I find it hard to just watch and pray? Stay awake just an hour? Yeah, I'd like to think how many souls need us tonight. If we only knew the power of prayer, the lives that would be saved if we remain with our brother in prayer. Seems too simple, doesn't it? I think those candles on each side of the tabernacle, one stands for you. Candles over here are flickering a lot. There's probably the apostles. Some of them have gone out. They're asleep. But the one up there, to the right of the tabernacle, is you tonight, who burns bright and strong and steady for Jesus. I think the other candle's probably the angel that came and strengthened him when he began to sweat blood. That's what he's calling us to, gentlemen. We're part of a colossal effort to save the world. That's why we're here. That's why we're up at this hour. Finally, Jesus steps forward to confront the enemy. The torches that we heard described in the gospel that they carry bring darkness, not light, despair, not hope. They're often the distance somewhere there, but Jesus sees them coming. Yes, there's a lot of despair in that crowd. See who's leading them. The saint. Well, he would have been the saint of hope. He became the sinner of despair. Judas. Clubs, swords, all kinds of weapons. Reminds me of an image I used to share with men. I'm going to adjust it slightly for the young men here. Suppose you're at school, college, high school, whatever. It's that midday hour. You don't have class. You go out to your car. You're a senior. You got privileges. It's a nice souped-up sports car. You turn on the radio or you get out one of your gadgets and you start playing a video game. And suddenly, over the hill, coming down into the campus, you see this horde of barbarians. They're carrying all sorts of instruments of slaughter and destruction and torture. And they're coming down, they're cresting the hill, and they're coming down upon your campus. What do? Option number one, put up the windows and lock the doors of the car. Option number two, change the video game. Option number three, drive home where the atmosphere is a little more quiet. Option number four, get your buddies, send out the word, pull the fire alarm, pull the cars out front, block the entrance to the school, turn over your cars, and begin a defense. And fight for the lives of your brothers and your sisters. Because you know that evil is not after their money or their possessions. They want their souls, their hearts, their innocence, their freedom. They want to throw them into addiction, into confusion. They want to rip away their faith and their values. They want to bust up their families and their friendships. They want to make them depraved and confused. They want to turn them into animals. So we can just wake up tomorrow morning and live another ordinary day. Or tonight, we can accept his challenge. That our prayer, our fight to pray, to stay awake, which is not easy, and our vigil, our burning vigil that burns with love, because it's the only reason we're here. The only thing will keep us going in this battle is love. It's beautiful that our Lord entrusts us with his power. Our struggle is not with flesh and blood, but with the principalities, with the powers, and with the world rulers of the present darkness, with the evil spirits in the heavens. So we fight together as brothers. We fight alongside our brother, our leader. And even though an entire cohort shows up to arrest Jesus, we know one thing: he's got our back. And he steps up and says, so if you're looking for me, let these men go. He's arrested, manhandled, dragged away to suffer and die for us. And as you see him dragged away, maybe you have time to ask one last question. How much do you love us, Lord? And he'll respond something like this: stay with me, and you will see how much I love you.